All right, this is the second part of this week's online lab. We have, from the first video, when I run this, I have my drop-down box populated from my database. So all of these values here come from MySQL. I want to make this a hair better. MySQL currently just lists them in the order from the database. I'm going to order by, and this will force MySQL to return back a list that's sorted by author last. When I run this, you see Ambrose, Canvas, Castleman, Chase, Collins, etc. It's in alphabetical order. Making SQL sort as opposed to Java sort is much better in terms of performance on your end. Typically, SQL Server can outsort anything else, so it's not a bad idea to put the sorting on SQL Server. However, ask your DBA. They may prefer you to sort locally. It's your call, or it's their call. Since I'm the DBA of my own laptop, MySQL will sort for me. Okay, so now I need to run a query. I want to run a pretty big query. I'm essentially going to join the tables of wrote, book, and copy so that I have outputs that has the author name and the title. So before I try this, I'm going to write my query. So, I like to write things small. I want title and cost from book, BO, join. Actually, I'm not going to use the shortcut. So join, copy, on book.bookcode equal copy.bookcode. I run this. Copy it first, so I don't have to keep rewriting this thing. Okay, so I screwed that up. It's not cost, it's price. I think I do that every time I run this database. There we go, so I'm getting prices back. Okay, so I want now to edit this. I'm going to arrow up. I'm going to join rows on rows.bookcode equal book.bookcode. And I'm going to say where equal 1. And I'm getting back the stuff that author number 1 wrote, whoever that happens to be. Well, I want to group this. I want to return back just one book title. I don't want all of them. I want to know each book, and I'm going to pick the max price. So here's a problem with editing on the command line. It doesn't work real well. So I'm going to fire up Visual Studio Code. I'm going to rewrite this. MySQL has a bunch of editors that are better than just command prompt. I just don't have them installed. They've got MySQL Workbench. You can also use PHP MyAdmin. I just don't have them fired up and ready to go. I should have this open to start. There it is. Okay. Luckily, I already have it pre-written, except I did min instead of max. So just so you can see it, so press enter. Here's the code. Select title, max price, no name this thing. As price from book, join this other table, join group by title. So what's going to happen here is I'll get one one output of title, the max price for each title from the book, and I'm using where author number equal 1. When I go to build this in my Java, this 1 will end up being replaced with the author number from the drop-down box. So it'll end up being interactive based on the output. Make sure this runs. I'm going to copy this over here. Oops. Then hit Control C. Why am I not copying? Copy, paste. There we go. And I get my books back. So one book, max price. So Beloved costs most $12.95, Jazz the most $12.95, and Song of Solomon is $14. So this is the query that I'm going to use. My output's going to return back just a string and a decimal, so I'm going to build a class that holds that. So now I'm jump back to Java. Projects, right-click, new Java class. I'm going to call it book and price. Starting with title and a price. Setters and getters, right-click, insert code. Setters and getters. Right-click, insert code, constructor, get the default one, just because I like to have one. Insert code, constructor, give me the parameterized one. And I need a toString. Like before, the default toString is overkill. I want this to look nice. I'm going to use the decimal format to create myself a very nice output. So I'm going to add a variable up here. I use decimal formats. And I'll use a standard money string. If you're not familiar with decimal formats, wherever the zeros are, a number will display regardless of whether or not it's important or not. Fix imports. Thank you. The pound signs will only display a number if they're there. So if the cost of the book was $0 and 0 pennies, I'd get 0.00 with a dollar sign in front of it. If it was $1 with no pennies, it would get $1.00 $1.00. $1.10 would be $1.00 $1.10. I'm going to use that on my output to make this look pretty. So let's scroll down here to my constructor. Or not constructor, my toString, very simple. I'm going to format price. It'll output as name of the book, space, $sign cost of the book. All right, so I built my class to hold my data. You always build a class whenever you're interacting with a database to hold whatever's coming back. So in the last video, I created a class for author. In this video, I'm creating a class for book and price. As you move forward in programming, you're going to have scenarios where you have 37 tables you're pulling from. Yes, that's 37 classes. But there are some tools that make that automatic or a lot less tedious. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to set this guy to display list and price. I'm going to do something similar to what I did before. I'm going to change the code so it's a type book and price. I'm going to create a model to hold the stuff in the drop-down box. And I'm going to populate the drop-down box on whenever you hit the drop. So I'm going to select my list, go to code, change the string and type parameters to book and price. This is simply whatever I named my class. Go back to the properties, select the model, let me delete them. It's now blank. A run confirms that. Author name still works, nothing in the list. Okay, we're doing good. Let's go back to code. I'm going to create a method called fillList. And fillList is going to be very similar to what we did before. I'm also going to create a new object up here. I'll call it void fillList. I'm going to create a new object up here that's going to be my list model. So default list model. I'm going to call it book model. And since they're generic, you have to give it a type. Fix your imports. So this book model is going to allow me to add objects to the screen. First, I'm going to do some clearance. Wipes out anything that happens to be in the model. This will be helpful as we go from author to author to author. It clears out. String SQL. For now, I'm going to set it equal to my code, and this code will be available to you on my Blackboard accounts. For now, we're going to use this one. I will modify this once this works. See, it's helping me. There we go. Again, this will be available to you on Blackboard. You won't have to type it. So fillList is going to, again, have a possible SQL exception. So we'll try a catch. And again, I'm in JOption pane and return. Again, it's yellow because I haven't done anything yet that requires that. So inside here, I'm going to connect the database. I'm going to run the query. I'm going to run my query and walk through this. So it looks a lot like what we just did. Instantiate a new object. Got some parentheses here. I'll add this to my object. And again, since I'm done with my connection, I'm going to close outside this file. There are some problems that are about to pop up that I'm going to show you, but right now we're doing pretty good. I want this to call whenever I hit the drop-down box. So I'm going to go back to my design screen. I'm going to create an event for this guy. There are two ways to create events here. I can right-click, go to Events, and pick the event I want. Or I can double-click the object, and Java will pick the one for me. And it will be linked to that particular object. You don't have to write the add action listener because that's all done for you inside here, inside that big blue vomit of code. So what I'm going to do inside there is I'm going to call that method. So I'm going to call fill list, and I'm going to run it and see what happens. Nothing. That I didn't expect. Yeah, that confused me. Let's call it here, see what happens. See if it's my function or if it's my event. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. Yeah, I forgot to link the model. So I need to link the model to the list box. Up there in my Henry GUI, my constructor, I'm going to link to my model. All right, let's see what it does now. There we go. Author 1 is here. People are over here. Life is good. What I need to pull off now is when I pick Reva Castleman, her books appear. And the reason I just get these three is because that's whoever the heck author number 1 happens to be. So I'm right 1/33 of the time or so. So I need to figure out who was picked and then pass that into Phil and let Phil use that inside the SQL query. All right, so let's do so. So I'm going to need to create some variables, and I'm going to need to modify how Phil book list runs. So we'll go up here to Phil book list, or excuse me, Phil list, and I'm going to create a new variable of type author. And I'm going to pull out of the author combo this is where my method really shines. Because now inside the author combo boxes are authors, not names, authors, which includes an author number, last name, and first name. So I pull out the get select item, typecast it from object over into author, and pick now holds whatever object I picked. I need to modify my SQL, so instead of 1, I have picked dot author ID. So I'm going to use the format function because it's really awesome. If you haven't worked with this, this is a lot like printline and printf from other languages. I'm going to take my code. Again, you'll have this copied from here. I'm going to make it one line. I press enter here so it looks a little better. Nope, I'm going to press enter here. it's readable. NetBeans is nice where it breaks it up. I'll press enter here as well so we can see what's happening. Format allows you to replace parts of your string with format specifiers. %d says, I'm expecting a number here. At the end of the string, you do quotes, and then you put the number there. So I'm going to do pick.getAuthorNum. That comes out of my class that I built a while ago. So authorNum will be the number of the author I picked, which is the primary key of the author table, which I'll then use to limit what I'm searching for. Let's see how I've done. Okay, so Bradley Collins works. Let's pick Stephen King. I know he works. There's Rowling. She works too. You see I'm getting output. Now, without a database, you know what you'd have to do. You'd have to if each and every one of these, and then create each and every entry over here. You don't have to with SQL holding your data. Quote, all you have to do, unquote, is connect to the database, manage the SQL lines. That's all you really need to do. And while this has some complexities, it's a whole heck of a lot less work than manually typing in all these author names and creating a big old switch based on author names and then filling up the list based on the switch. You know, I'm done in an hour as opposed to where you'd be still writing the first switch. Okay, so one last thing I want to do just to cover your butt. Go back to your design screen, select the window, anything that's not an object. I'm going to right-click that window, go to Events. I'm going to do Window Closing. Even though I've handled my SQL closing, I want to make sure it closes every time I close out of my project. So Window Closing is identifiers as the program is dying. I'm going to close like I did before. Now it's angry at me because it wants to be inside of a try-catch. So I'm going to simply surround it with try-catch. If I get an error on close, I really don't care. I'm closing the program anyway. The database should have already been closed. If not, it'll close out. If I get an error here, the error is because I'm trying to close the connection that's already closed. So I'm happy. Run my program. Let's make sure it also works. Drop. Trudy, Dick, Francis, etc. Piece of cake. All right, that's it. You know enough to do your assignment.